Yo, the internet is losing it right now, and I'm not even exaggerating. Elon Musk just accidentally started the biggest hip-hop culture war we've seen in years, and it's got everything to do with Kendrick Lamar, Drake, and a massive festival controversy worth $10 million. Listen, what started as a simple Twitter update has turned into an absolute expose that's got Kendrick fans scrabbling, Drake looking suspicious as hell, and the entire hip-hop community questioning who's really been running the narrative this whole time. We're talking fake accounts from across the globe, a Rolling Loud co-founder dropping bombshells about Drake refusing millions of dollars, and accusations that are making people rethink everything they thought they knew about this beef. And trust me, by the end of this video, you're gonna see why thousands of people are saying Drake might actually be scared to perform at the biggest hip-hop festival in the world. This is wild, so let's get into it. All right, so everybody thought they understood the Kendrick versus Drake situation, right? We all saw Not Like Us go absolutely nuclear. We watched Kendrick's pop-out show break the internet, we heard the diss tracks, saw the memes, and picked our sides. That was the version of events everyone was running with. Two titans of hip-hop going at it with their fan bases backing them up online. But here's where everything gets twisted. Elon Musk, in his infinite wisdom, decided to roll out a new feature on Twitter, or X, whatever we're calling it now, that shows the country location of every single account. Sounds innocent enough, right? Just a little transparency update. Wrong. This one little feature just pulled back the curtain on something massive, and it's got the OVO camp celebrating while Kendrick fans are in full damage control mode. Because what people started discovering was absolutely mind-blowing. We're talking about dozens, possibly hundreds of accounts that have been posting about Kendrick, defending him in comment sections, using very specific cultural language, even dropping the N-word and claiming to be Black Americans from Compton or LA, and they were exposed as being run from India, Saudi Arabia, New Zealand, Nigeria, Poland, the UK, and all kinds of other countries that have nothing to do with West Coast hip-hop culture. Yeah, let that marinate for a second. So let me break down exactly what happened, because this is where the internet turned into full-blown detectives, and honestly, some of the stuff they found is straight crazy. Once Elon's update went live, people immediately started checking accounts they've been arguing with online. You know those super aggressive Kendrick stan accounts? The ones that would flood every Drake post with Not Like Us lyrics, call him a colonizer, talk about protecting black culture, and act like they were born and raised in Compton? Turns out, a lot of them were overseas the entire time. Fans started screenshotting and posting receipts left and right. There was one account with a profile picture of Kendrick and a Compton hat, bio saying West Coast till I die, constantly posting about authentic hip-hop culture and how Drake isn't really from the streets. Location? Mumbai, India. Another account that had been calling Drake a culture vulture for months and talking about we don't claim him in the culture, based in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And it gets even wilder. People found accounts from Poland, Nigeria, New Zealand, and the UK. All of them pretending to be African American, using AAVE, African American Vernacular English, talking about we and our community and our culture like they were personally invested. Some of these accounts had been active for years, building up thousands of followers, getting into heated debates about hip-hop authenticity, and the whole time they were literally on the other side of the planet. Now look, I'm not saying international fans can't support Kendrick. Of course they can. Hip-hop is global, music is universal. But what's got people heated is the deception. These weren't accounts saying, I'm a Kendrick fan from India or supporting from the UK. They were pretending to be Black Americans, using cultural language they had no connection to, dropping the N-word in tweets, and weaponizing Black American struggles in rap beef arguments. That's what people are calling out. TMZ caught wind of this and started covering it. Hip-hop blogs went insane, and you know DJ Akademiks had a field day with this. He went on stream calling exposed Kendrick fans culture cosplayers and saying they were pretending to be pro-black Compton activists from their bedrooms in Poland. I mean, he's messy, but he wasn't entirely wrong in this case. The OVO fan base, Drake supporters, they were in the comments celebrating. Memes started flooding in. People were posting things like, "Not Like Us" really hit different when you find out it was being streamed in Saudi Arabia by fake accounts. The jokes were ruthless. But here's the thing that really got people thinking deeper. If this many fan accounts were fake, how much of the perception of Kendrick's dominance online was artificial? Were these bot-style accounts inflating engagement? Were they making it seem like Kendrick had way more organic support than he actually did? And on the flip side, were Drake fans doing the same thing? That's the question people started asking. And right as this conversation was heating up, a whole other controversy dropped that made everything even more complicated. So while the internet is still processing the fake fan account drama, Rolling Loud's co-founder, one of the biggest hip-hop festival brands in the world, comes out of nowhere and drops an absolute bombshell about Drake. He revealed that they've offered Drake $10 million to headline Rolling Loud. Not once, not twice, but every single year. And every single year, Drake has turned them down. $10 million annually. And Drake keeps saying no. Now, for context, let me explain what Rolling Loud is for anyone who doesn't know. This is not some small local concert. Rolling Loud is the premier hip-hop festival on the planet. It started in Miami and has expanded globally. We're talking hundreds of thousands of fans, multiple stages, the biggest names in rap, and career-defining performances. Artists build their legacy at Rolling Loud. It's where you prove you can control a massive crowd. It's where viral moments are born. And Drake, one of the biggest artists in the world, someone who literally shaped the sound of modern hip-hop for over a decade, refuses to perform there. The co-founder said Drake would headline all 3 nights if he accepted. That's how badly they want him. That's how much they're willing to pay. But he keeps ducking it. Now, for context, when this information first dropped, people were confused. Why would someone at Drake's level turn down that kind of money and exposure? He performs at his own festivals. He does arena tours, he shows up at random clubs, so why not Rolling Loud? But then, people started connecting the dots between the Kendrick fan exposure and this Rolling Loud rejection, and a theory started forming that actually makes a lot of sense. What if Drake is avoiding Rolling Loud because he knows the crowd energy won't be in his favor? Think about it. Rolling Loud is raw. It's unfiltered. It's not a Drake-curated audience where everyone paid specifically to see him. It's a festival crowd full of hardcore hip-hop fans from all walks of life, all backgrounds, all preferences. And after Not Like Us became a cultural moment, playing at the Super Bowl halftime show, dominating the charts, becoming a literal anthem, do you really think Drake wants to step on that stage and risk getting drowned out by people chanting Kendrick's lyrics? Fans online started pointing out that Drake's performances lately have been, let's just say, less hype than they used to be. There have been videos circulating of Drake concerts where the energy feels flat, where it looks more like a karaoke session than a commanding performance. Meanwhile, Kendrick's pop-out show in LA had the entire city on fire. He brought out every West Coast legend you can think of, had the crowd in a frenzy, and proved he could control a massive audience with ease. So now people are saying Drake might be strategically avoiding big public festival settings because he doesn't want to be compared directly to Kendrick in that environment. He doesn't want the risk of a lukewarm crowd reaction. He doesn't want footage of thousands of people looking bored or worse, chanting Not Like Us while he's trying to perform. And remember, this is all happening at the same time the fake fan accounts got exposed. So now there's this perception that Kendrick's online presence might be inflated by fake international accounts, but his real-world performance ability and crowd control is undeniable. Meanwhile, Drake has the money, the streaming numbers, the chart success, but he's reportedly avoiding the one place where he'd have to prove himself in front of a raw, uncontrolled audience. That's a wild look, and people are absolutely running with it. Now let's talk about the motive here, because once you understand Drake's patterns over the last few years, this whole situation starts to make way more sense. Drake has always been calculated, always. He controls his image, he controls his rollouts, he controls the narrative around his music. That's part of why he's been so successful for so long. But that need for control has also made him predictable in certain ways. And people are starting to notice. Let's go back a bit. When the Pusha T beef happened years ago, how did Drake respond after the story of Adidon dropped and exposed his kid? He went quiet. He stopped engaging. He eventually addressed it in his music, but he didn't keep the public battle going. Some people said that was mature. Others said he got bodied and had no choice but to fall back. Now fast forward to the Kendrick situation. Not Like Us drops. It becomes a cultural phenomenon. It gets played at the Super Bowl. And what does Drake do? He keeps dropping music, but he's not directly engaging anymore. He's not challenging Kendrick to a public showdown. He's not trying to reclaim the narrative in a big, loud way. Instead, he's been relatively quiet, focusing on business moves and his OVO brand. So when you look at the Rolling Loud rejection in that context, it starts to make sense. Drake doesn't do situations he can't control. A festival like Rolling Loud, where the crowd is mixed, where Kendrick fans would definitely be in attendance, where viral moments can be captured by thousands of phones and sprayed instantly, that's not a Drake environment. That's too risky. That's too unpredictable. Now, some people might say, but he doesn't need the money. 10 million is nothing to Drake. And that's true. Drake is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He has business deals, endorsements, his own label. He's financially set. But this isn't about money. This is about optics. This is about legacy. This is about not wanting to give people ammunition to say Drake performed at Rolling Loud and the crowd wasn't feeling it, or Drake got overshadowed by younger artists, or the energy was weak compared to when Kendrick performed. And look, let's be real. Drake's been in the game for over 15 years. He's had an insane run. But every artist eventually faces the question, can you still control a crowd the way you used to? Can you still command that energy? Can you still compete with the new generation and the legends? Kendrick just proved he can. His pop-out show wasn't just a concert, it was a statement. It was a reminder that he's still one of the most respected, most powerful voices in hip-hop. He brought out legends like Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and YG. He had the crowd in a frenzy from start to finish. That's the kind of performance that solidifies legacy. So when people say Drake is ducking Rolling Loud, they're not saying he's scared of Kendrick personally showing up and battling him on stage. They're saying he's avoiding the comparison. He's avoiding the risk of his performance being measured against Kendrick's, Travis Scott's, or any of the other artists who can command that festival energy effortlessly. And people online are brutal about this stuff. You know how fast the clip can go viral with the caption, "Drake said at Rolling Loud was mid," or "Crowd looked bored during Drake's performance." That kind of footage lives forever. It becomes part of your legacy. It gets brought up in every debate. Drake is smart enough to know that. He's smart enough to avoid that situation entirely. And honestly, that might be the right business move for him, but it's also giving people ammunition to call him out for not being willing to take that risk. But here's the part that really hits different. And it's something that goes beyond just Drake and Kendrick. This whole situation has opened up a much bigger conversation about culture, authenticity, and who gets to speak for hip-hop. When those fake fan accounts got exposed, it wasn't just funny memes and jokes. For a lot of people, it felt like a betrayal because hip-hop has always been rooted in real experiences. It's always been about people using music to tell their stories, to speak on their struggles, to represent their communities. And when you have people overseas pretending to be part of that experience, using language and cultural markers that aren't theirs, it feels disrespectful. Imagine being a Black American who grew up in Compton, who lived through the experiences Kendrick raps about, who understands the weight of those lyrics. And then you find out that a huge portion of the people online claiming to defend that culture are actually from countries that have no connection to it. That's frustrating. That's confusing. That makes you question what's real and what's performative. Now, I want to be clear. Hip-hop is a global phenomenon. And that's beautiful. People in India, Saudi Arabia, Poland, Nigeria, the UK, they should be able to enjoy and celebrate hip-hop. Music transcends borders. That's the power of art. But there's a difference between being a fan and pretending to be something you're not. There's a difference between saying, I love Kendrick's music, and saying, I'm from Compton and this is our culture, when you've never even been to California. And this is where the Drake versus Kendrick thing gets even more layered. Because part of what makes Kendrick so respected is that he's always stayed true to where he's from. He reps Compton. He talks about his community. He uses his platform to speak on real issues. He's not trying to be something he's not. Drake, on the other hand, has always been more fluid with his image. He's from Toronto, but he's rapped with a Jamaican accent. He's claimed Houston. He's claimed Atlanta. He's called himself the Sixth God, but also tried to align himself with every regional hip-hop scene. And that's part of why people call him a culture vulture. Not because he's not talented, but because he seems to adopt whatever culture is trendy at the moment. So when fake fan accounts were exposed, pretending to be Black Americans to defend Kendrick, the OVO fans used that as ammunition to say, see, Kendrick's whole movement is fake. It's just as manufactured as anything else. But Kendrick fans fired back saying, at least we're fighting for someone who's authentic, even if some of the people online aren't. Drake's entire image is manufactured. And honestly, both sides have a point. That's what makes this so messy. That's what makes this so interesting. Because we're living in an era where it's harder than ever to know what's real. Social media has made it so easy to create fake personas, to inflate engagement, to manipulate narratives. And in a genre like hip-hop, where authenticity is supposed to be everything, that's a really uncomfortable reality. So yeah, this isn't just about Drake avoiding a festival or Kendrick fans getting exposed. This is about a much bigger question. What does authenticity even mean in 2025? And who gets to decide? All right, so while all of this is going on, there's even more drama swirling around Drake that people are connecting to the bigger narrative. And honestly, the timing is just too suspicious to ignore. So there's been this rumor floating around for months that Drake is working on a project with someone called Iceman. Now, nobody knows exactly who Iceman is. Some people think it's a producer, some think it's a rapper, some think it's just a code name for a secret collaboration. But the point is, this project was supposedly supposed to drop in early November. Well, it's mid-November now, and we've got nothing. And people online are saying that Drake is intentionally holding back this release because he doesn't want to deal with the public backlash right now. Think about it. Not Like Us is still dominating. The fake fan account drama just blew up. The Rolling Loud controversy is making him look like he's avoiding competition. If he drops an album right now, every single review, every single comment section, every single reaction video is going to be colored by all of this mess. So strategically, it makes sense for him to wait. Let the noise die down, let people move on to the next controversy, then drop the album when he can control the narrative a little better. And honestly, that's classic Drake strategy. He's always been about timing his releases for maximum impact and minimum risk. But here's where it gets even messier, because Drake also just sparked a whole new controversy involving Serena Williams, and people are saying this dude just refuses to grow up. So Drake posted a picture on Instagram with Sexy Red. Innocent enough, right? They're both artists, they work together, they're friends. But fans immediately started connecting the dots and saying this was shade towards Serena Williams. Now, for anyone who doesn't know the history, Drake and Serena were rumored to have dated years ago. It was never fully confirmed, but there were pictures of them together, cryptic social media posts, the whole thing. And ever since then, anytime Drake posts something that could even remotely be connected to Serena, people analyze it like it's the Zapruder film. So in this case, people were saying that Drake posting with Sexy Red, who's known for being bold, outspoken, and very sexual in the music, was a way of throwing shade at Serena, who's now married with kids and living a completely different life. The theory is that Drake is still salty about how things ended, and he takes these little subtle jabs whenever he can. Now, whether that's true or not, I have no idea. But what people are pointing out is that Drake is almost 40 years old and he's still doing this kind of petty stuff. Like, bro, you're one of the biggest artists on the planet. You've got more money than most people will see in 10 lifetimes. You've dated some of the most beautiful and successful women in the world. And you're still out here acting like you're in high school, posting cryptic pictures and throwing subliminal shade. And this ties back to what people have been saying about Drake for years. He refuses to mature. He refuses to grow up. He's stuck in this cycle of beefs, subliminals, petty drama, and image control. And at a certain point, people start to wonder if that's holding him back artistically. Meanwhile, Kendrick dropped Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, an album where he went to therapy, talked about generational trauma, explored his flaws, and showed genuine growth as a person. That's the difference. That's why people respect Kendrick's artistry in a different way. He's willing to be vulnerable. He's willing to evolve. So when you add up the Rolling Loud avoidance, the fake fan account drama, the delayed album, and the Serena shade, people are starting to paint a picture of Drake as someone who's more focused on protecting his image than actually growing as an artist. And in hip-hop, that's a problem. All right, so let's zoom out for a second, because what we're really witnessing here is a much bigger shift in hip-hop culture. And this whole Drake versus Kendrick situation is just the most visible example of it. Hip-hop has always had debates about authenticity, from the East Coast versus West Coast wars in the 90s to the real rap versus mumble rap arguments of the 2010s, to the debates about streaming numbers versus cultural impact today. But what's different now is that social media has made these debates global, instant, and way more complicated. Think about it. In the 90s, if you wanted to be part of the hip-hop conversation, you had to actually be in the culture. You had to go to shows, buy albums, read magazines, listen to the radio. There was a barrier to entry. But now, anyone with an internet connection can create a Twitter account, claim to be from wherever they want, and insert themselves into these conversations. They can influence narratives, shape perceptions, and even drive real-world outcomes, all while sitting on the other side of the planet. And that's exactly what happened with these fake Kendrick fan accounts. These weren't just random people enjoying music. They were actively shaping the narrative around the beef. They were flooding comment sections, boosting engagement, making it seem like Kendrick had overwhelming grassroots support, when in reality, a chunk of that support was artificial. But here's the uncomfortable question. Is Drake's team doing the same thing? Are there fake accounts inflating his numbers, defending him in comment sections, attacking his critics? Almost definitely. Because at this level of fame, everybody uses social media strategy. Everybody has teams managing their online presence. So the real question isn't who's using fake accounts, it's who got caught. And that brings us back to the Rolling Loud situation, because in a world where online narratives can be manipulated, real-world performances become even more important. You can buy bots, you can inflate streaming numbers, you can game the algorithm, but you can't fake a crowd reaction. You can't fake the energy of 50,000 people in front of you. That's where the truth comes out. And I think that's why the Rolling Loud rejection is hitting so hard for people, because it feels like Drake is avoiding the one place where he'd have to prove himself in an uncontrolled environment. He's avoiding the test that Kendrick already passed with flying colors. There's also a generational component to this. Drake is 38. He's been in the game for over 15 years. He's approaching that phase of his career where people start questioning if he's still hungry, still relevant, still capable of evolving. Meanwhile, you've got younger artists like 21 Savage, Lil Baby, Travis Scott, and others who are in their prime and commanding massive festival crowds. So if Drake were to headline Rolling Loud and the crowd energy was weak, or if he got overshadowed by younger artists on the lineup, that becomes part of his legacy. That becomes one of the stories people tell when they talk about the end of his dominance. And I think Drake is smart enough to know that. I think he's smart enough to avoid that scenario entirely. From a pure business standpoint, it's probably the right move. Why risk tarnishing your brand when you don't have to? Why give your critics ammunition when you can just keep doing your own tours, your own festivals, your own controlled environments? But from a cultural standpoint, from a hip-hop legacy standpoint, it looks like he's running. It looks like he's not willing to compete on an even playing field. And in a genre that's always valued battle mentality, that's not a good look. So when you combine the fake fan exposure, the Rolling Loud rejection, the delayed album, the petty social media behavior, and the broader questions about authenticity in the streaming era, what you're really seeing is hip-hop at a crossroads. You're seeing two different philosophies collide. Drake's controlled, business-focused, image-conscious approach versus Kendrick's raw, unfiltered, performance-driven approach. And the culture is trying to decide which one it respects more.
Now, obviously, the internet has been going insane over all of this, and honestly, some of the reactions have been absolutely hilarious, while others have been straight up brutal. Twitter has been a war zone. You've got OVO fans flooding every Kendrick-related post with laughing emojis and screenshots of the exposed international accounts. You've got Kendrick fans firing back saying Drake is scared to perform at real festivals. You've got neutral fans just eating popcorn and watching the chaos unfold. One viral tweet said, "Kendrick fans were really out here typing 'on God, no cap' from Poland." Another one said, "Drake saw Rolling Loud offered him $10 million and said, 'I'm good. I don't want that Kendrick smoke.'" And one of my favorites, "Elon Musk ending rap beef by accident is the most Elon Musk thing ever." But the person who's been having the most fun with this is DJ Akademiks. And if you know Akademiks, you know he lives for this kind of drama. He went on stream for like 3 hours breaking down the fake account situation, pulling up receipts, reading through comment sections, and just roasting people. He was saying stuff like, "Yo, Kendrick fans were really out here defending Compton culture from New Delhi. These dudes never even been to California, and they talking about we don't claim Drake. We? Who is we? You're in Saudi Arabia." I mean, it's messy, but it's also kind of funny when you think about it. But Akademiks also made a fair point. He said that both fan bases probably have fake accounts, and this is just exposing what's been happening across the board in the music industry. Everybody's using bots. Everybody's trying to inflate engagement. Everybody's gaming the system. So acting like this is a Kendrick-specific problem is disingenuous. Over on Reddit, the hip-hop forums have been going deep into analysis mode. People are pulling up old tweets, comparing engagement patterns, looking at follower growth charts, and trying to figure out exactly how widespread this fake account problem is. Some users have created entire spreadsheets tracking suspicious accounts and their activity. And of course, YouTube reaction channels are eating this up. Everybody's got a hot take. Some people are defending Drake, saying he doesn't need to prove anything to anybody. Others are saying this is the nail in the coffin for his legacy. Some are saying Kendrick fans deserve to be called out. Others are saying this is all a distraction from Drake avoiding real competition. TikTok has been a whole different beast. You've got people making skits pretending to be Kendrick fans, logging off their VPNs and revealing they're actually in random countries. You got people lip-syncing to Not Like Us with captions like "me defending Kendrick from my apartment in Warsaw." The memes are endless. But underneath all the jokes and memes, there's a real tension. People are genuinely divided on this. Some people think Drake is making a smart business decision by avoiding Rolling Loud. Others think he's scared. Some think the fake fan exposure is a huge deal. Others think it's overblown. And that's what makes this such a compelling story. There's no clear right answer. And while all of this is playing out online, we're still waiting to see how Drake is actually going to respond. Is he going to address the Rolling Loud situation? Is he going to drop that rumored album with Iceman? Is he going to clap back at the people calling him scared? Or is he just going to stay silent and let it blow over?
So, where does all of this go from here? Because trust me, this story is far from over, and there are a few ways this could play out. First possibility, Drake stays silent, lets the noise die down, and eventually drops his next project on his terms, in his timeline, with his narrative fully controlled. He doesn't address the Rolling Loud situation. He doesn't engage with the fake fan drama. He just keeps moving forward like none of it matters. And honestly, that's probably the smartest play for him. Don't give the controversy oxygen. Don't let it become a bigger story than it needs to be. Second possibility, Drake does address it, either in an interview, on social media, or through his music. Maybe he explains why he hasn't done Rolling Loud. Maybe he talks about wanting to focus on his own brand and his own tours. Maybe he fires back at people calling him scared. If he does this, it'll be calculated, it'll be strategic, and it'll probably shift the narrative at least somewhat in his favor. Third possibility, and this is the spicy one. Drake actually accepts the Rolling Loud offer for next year, and we get the ultimate showdown. Imagine if he headlined Rolling Loud 2026 and came out with the most insane performance of his career, just to prove everybody wrong. That would be legendary. That would flip the entire narrative. But it's also risky as hell, because if the performance doesn't live up to the hype, it confirms everything his critics have been saying. As for Kendrick, he's probably just gonna keep doing what he does. He's not the type to get on social media and gloat. He's not the type to make a big spectacle out of this. He'll let his music and his performances speak for themselves. And honestly, that's part of why people respect him so much. He doesn't need to engage in the noise. He has already proven his point. As for the fake fan account drama, I think this is going to lead to a bigger conversation in the music industry about bot usage, engagement manipulation, and authenticity on social media. We're already seeing Twitter X make changes to try to combat bots. Other platforms are probably going to follow suit, and artists are going to have to be more careful about how they build and maintain their online presence. But beyond all the specifics, what this whole situation has done is force the hip-hop community to ask some really uncomfortable questions. What does authenticity mean in 2025? How much of what we see online is real? How much is manufactured? Who's really in control of these narratives? And at the end of the day, does any of it actually matter if the music is good? Because let's be real, Drake has made incredible music. Kendrick has made incredible music. They're both legends in their own right. They've both shaped the sound of modern hip-hop. And whether Drake performs at Rolling Loud or not, whether some of Kendrick's fans were overseas pretending to be American or not, none of that changes the impact they've had on the culture. But it does change how we talk about them. It does change the narratives that get written about their legacies. And in an era where perception is reality, that matters more than ever. All right, y'all, so that's the full breakdown of this absolutely wild situation. Elon Musk accidentally exposed thousands of fake Kendrick fan accounts. Drake is reportedly turning down $10 million a year to avoid Rolling Loud, and the entire hip-hop community is divided on what it all means. And trust me, this story is about to get even crazier. More details are dropping every single day. More people are getting exposed. More theories are forming. We're probably going to see responses from both Drake and Kendrick's camp sooner rather than later. And when that happens, this whole thing is going to blow up again. So I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Do you think Drake is making a smart business decision by avoiding Rolling Loud? Or do you think he's scared of the competition? Do you think the fake fan account situation is a big deal? Or is it just a distraction? And be honest, do you think Drake could actually command a crowd at a festival like Rolling Loud the way Kendrick did at his pop-out show? I'm seeing arguments on both sides, and I think that's what makes this so interesting. Some of y'all are going to say Drake doesn't need to prove anything. Others are going to say he's ducking the smoke. Let's have that conversation in the comments. Make sure you smash that like button if you found this breakdown valuable. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single update, because we're covering every twist and turn as this story develops. I'm talking every new piece of information, every response, every meme, every reaction. We're on it. And yo, I appreciate every single one of you for rocking with me and being part of this community. We're building something special here where we can have real conversations about hip-hop culture, not just surface-level takes. So thank you for being here. Stay locked in, stay informed, and remember, in the age of social media, nothing is ever as simple as it seems. Always question the narrative, always look deeper, and always think critically about what you're seeing online. I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe out there and keep it real. Peace.